What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, with another Breeders' Cup prep show for you guys tonight. Of course, we are finally starting the road to the first Saturday in November. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate if you guys do enjoy the podcast tonight. Please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, because not only is it 100% free to do and the best way to help out our channel, but if you guys do that, it pushes these videos and others out into YouTube's algorithm to hopefully bring more horse players to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. You can see below on the bottom side of the screen right now, you'll see our normal podcast schedule every single week here on the HHH Racing Podcast, every single Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Usually it is Pacific Horseplayers with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson. Of course, you're getting us tonight for reasons I will talk about in a little bit. Normally every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you have us with myself, Patrick, and Noah. For right now, Bettin N Boozin. And of course, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Picks and Ponies with Howard, Pete, and Paul. Lots of good shows coming up tonight, guys. As I mentioned, Breeders' Cup preps are on the horizon now. Of course, Santa Anita starts back up, so Pacific Horseplayers, we'll talk about that tomorrow night, and of course, Picks and Ponies starts up on Thursday as they're at their normal time with Belmont at Aqueduct and their Breeders' Cup prep show, as well as the return of Great Race Plays, everybody. Of course, our Santa Anita show is starting back up again with their meet 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. So definitely don't want to miss that one if you guys are going to subscribe. And of course, you can hit that notification bell as well to not miss any other podcasts that are posted here to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel. You can also view every single podcast posted in audio form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. So if you're more of an audio listener, please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. A ton of more short form content on at Bettin N Boozin Podcast for both TikTok and Instagram. Of course, guys, we have our Power Picks, which is our tip sheet that goes out to you guys every single Saturday, and it's only $4.99 a weekend. And for that, you get 2 tracks full of price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here at the HHH Racing Podcast have you covered with the Power Picks. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can also view previous editions of those Power Picks over on our website at hhhracingpodcast.com. But this is all done through patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description below. It's always billed per month. It's $21.60 a month over on Patreon. But just know that comes out to roughly about $5 every weekend. So we greatly appreciate that if you guys go subscribe to those over there. And as unbiasedly as I can say it, we're well over the positive ROI mark for the last 4.5 years. They really do pay for themselves. So again, if that interests you, the link's in the description, or you can just type patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast, and that will pop up there. But guys, we are covering Churchill Downs tonight. It is Lukas Classic Day, as well as you have the Grade 3 Ack Ack in there as well. Lots of good racing and lots of good horses to boot, including a bunch of competitive fields. So it's going to be a very nice show for you guys tonight. And I'm going to bring on my co-host, of course, to help me do that. And then we'll head right to the chat. And then we'll get right into the handicapping. Of course, from New Jersey, you have Patrick Kunsel, and the fill-in for my man Charlie Freeman was on the show last week, back to law school this week. But of course, we have Noah Maher to cover that as well. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining in. Obviously, this is not our normal day that we normally do this, but with, again, difficulties that I'll talk about that later, but very exciting difficulties. I appreciate you guys coming on Tuesday.
Yeah, no.
Cheers, Pat.
Oh, he's actually drinking tonight, and I'm not drinking. I'm being a good boy tonight, drinking water.
Oh, boo.
Boo. Nectar of the gods, of course, for me every single week that we do this here. But I see a bunch of people in the chat. I greatly appreciate everyone joining. Again, guys, if you guys are new here or you find yourself returning and haven't commented in the live chat here on YouTube, it's the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And we do read every single one. Bettin N Boozin on Tuesdays now. Katie, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. My mom, as always, joins in early. Thank you so much, Mom, for joining. Greatly appreciate it. Tom Espinoza, good afternoon. James, of course, was here bright and early. Greatly appreciate that. And Howard's pointing out to what I was alluding to last show from Wisconsin, perhaps ever. Safe travels and congrats on your move to Florida. I guess is what but Florida, of course, is what that means. That is why this show is on a Tuesday, not a Wednesday, is I am moving halfway across the country to Florida through this week and finally move in on Saturday. So it's going to be a very exciting week for both me and, of course, my beautiful wife. Ralph Conti was here. Ralph, good to see you back in the chat. Greatly appreciate it. New house has not been acquired yet. However, again, by next week's show on Wednesday, you will see the new setup I got going on here. Tom Espinoza, big Florida move, safe travels, visiting son in Florida, betting West Coast racing. Definitely messes the Los Al quarter horses after midnight. That'll definitely be had with the boys at some point down at the new place. And Paul Collin, my friend, good to see you. Keeneland soon. Very, very soon. It's going to be a pretty quick turnaround, moving to a new place, and all of a sudden 2 weeks later, I'm out partying with the boys out in Lexington. It's going to be, oh, look at this, Noah. How about look at doing stuff for the podcast? We like that. Noah will be live at Churchill this Saturday to cover races for our weekend Warriors show. It's going to be a fantastic show. Of course, I always forget to put that on the banner, so I guess that's a really big host fail on my part. Every single Saturday, we also have live racing coverage on Weekend Warriors. Starts somewhere in the afternoon around 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually, again, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for all of the podcasts that are put onto the HHH Racing Podcast come through as notifications on your phone as well as in your YouTube inbox. And Ralph Conti, West Palm area, it is the West Palm area. I don't know. He's hacking. I don't know how he knew that. I don't think I've said that yet. But again, and look at Paul Conlon will be there. So you got some friends to go along with you. Gentlemen, let's get right into this. Let's not waste any more time. The late pick 5 at Churchill Downs on Saturday, September 27th starts in race number 7. It's the only turf race on the entire day, of course. So, my interest does get piqued. It's $134,000 allowance, non-winners of 3 lifetime. Those allowances go for $134,000 now in Kentucky, which is just unbelievable, frankly. Always the money is ludicrous down there in Kentucky. Bringing up the horses in the race right now, guys. And of course, as we are doing this on a Tuesday, as Noah's always very familiar with Pacific Horseplayers, is we do not have morning lines or numbers in the program. So gentlemen, please say the number along with the horse name so people can follow along. The morning line favorite is going to be somewhere between the number 8, Mo Expectations, Table Flirt, the number 6, and number 9, Pretty Sassy. Irad pilots the 8. Brian Hernandez will obviously not be riding the number 6, Table Flirt. Of course, he had that terrible fall over the past weekend, and he just actually had successful surgery on his ribs to put them back into place. I think he had 7 broken ribs. So fantastic to hear that he's doing good again. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. And Tyler Gaffleone pilots the 9. So we'll see who does actually hop on the number 6, Table Flirt. Gentlemen, I will bring up our picks on the screen right now. 2 of us are going with the number 8, Mo Expectations. Ryan, wow, that's striking. Take a drink for
that's
that.
A first.
That is a first. So
I don't know.
For that one. Yeah, I know that's a bad on my. I would never stoop to you to that level, Noah. So I do apologize on that one. But you're going with the number 5, Scatitude, which I assume will be at least a decent price on Saturday. So interested to hear what you like about this one. Neither Patrick, actually very based, my friend. I did not see your picks on the bottom of the screen until right now, but Noah, you're going with a horse that neither of us have anywhere. So very interested to hear what you like about the number 5, Scatitude.
Yeah, and I like this horse quite a bit. I think this is a race that you should look for a decent price and know some of the outside rivals we kind of agree upon, I think, have a big shot. But, I mean, if anyone's going to be favored in here, I think you're going to get a pretty decent price on that favorite. So I feel like whoever you got, you're going to get a pretty decent number on the board. Now, Scatitude, her one turf route here at Churchill Downs, I thought was really, really good. She was up part of a hot pace. She was the only one that stayed on. Here for a good time, I think, tried Stakes Company next out. And Love and Poetry is a pretty decent horse for Brad Cox, and they came from way out of it. I think they were 8th and 10th down the backside. So that pace definitely did not hold together, fell apart pretty good. I thought she stayed on very, very well in that race. And then the 2-turn race at Ellis, she actually ran up against a horse that's coming back in this race. I don't remember if it's the 2 or the 3. But next up, who kind of got the jump in that race and just couldn't quite get to her, just lost her by less than a length. And then last time I thought she did a really nice job of putting things together, went 6.5 at Kentucky Downs. Now I know that's not exactly 2 turns, but I think the rule of thumb is those 6.5 races kind of play a little more favorable to those that like to go a little bit further. Kind of same thing you see with some of the downhill races on the turf at Santa Anita. But I thought she did it well. She kind of sat in behind the speed, split horses, kicked away. And I think she's just getting better and better. And she's probably going to have to step up a little bit to face this kind of company with some of the horses that you got. But, it's 3-year-old fillies. They got every right to do that. And I like her quite a bit in here.
Yeah, no, this might be just one I looked over, Pat, to be completely honest, because her numbers do definitely fit, especially those at the routing. Really, her 3 worst races have come when she's sprinting. And then her best races have come around at least 2 of them have gone around 2 turns. And of course, that last race out of Kentucky Downs was her best, but as Noah hinted at, which I completely agree with, they do run better towards the mile. So Pat, maybe this is one we might have just overlooked, but I feel like this is a race where if you don't really love someone, you can kind of go like 4 or 5 different horses in here.
Yeah, I think with her, I don't know if I want to phrase it as she scares, the Kentucky Downs race scares me a little bit with that figure, but I don't know. I just kind of looked at others in here considering the numbers, going on the flat ground. And that's kind of where I landed with Moek's expectations. Listen, her last race was just visually impressive.
Yes. Right.
I don't know I don't know what would you call it, if she was green in the stretch or she just wasn't on the right lead. I kind of let maybe you two kind of explain that a little better than I can, I'm sure. But I don't know. She just was not right in the stretch. But when she kicked on with it, it was pretty impressive. And that turn of foot was really good. And I do expect another step forward in here as she's just, gone month to month with decent races and getting better and better on the speed figure from the speed figure standpoint.
Yeah, and we talk about, the progressing 3-year-olds a lot, Noah, and I know it's just, it's just Indiana, right? I mean, this is Indiana Allowance Company versus what in theory is a step up here, but this race was basically a hand ride. Of course, you're looking at this number 9 and the Stone Street colors coming to the outside. I mean, this is a hand ride right now. Whip out. She was a little green there, and she's going to take 1 hit from the whip on the right side, and she's going to absolutely take off. And again, talk about watching replays a lot, visually handicapping. I mean, that's everything you want to see out of a turf router.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I feel like those races, especially those turf races down in Shelbyville, get a little disrespected. I feel like they got some pretty good racing, especially kind of this time of year where there's not really a premier meet going on. So you get some pretty good quality there. And, even if it wasn't the greatest of fields, the way that she did it, I feel like you got to take notice of that. And I mean, on Byers, she's getting better and better with every start. I guess on time form doesn't really say the same thing, but just those numbers alone, seems like she could take another step forward. And if she does, I think, Kyle, I think you're spot on. He's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, and this is what it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the problem is you're going to take the IRAD tax along with the Brad Cox tax. Could easily see this one being the favorite. However, I don't know if you'll necessarily get too short of a price on her because, as Noah pointed out, she's really not exactly like upper echelon of buyers or time forms or anything like that. However, of course, connections wise, she's going to take some money. Even on time form, maybe not as big of a jump from buyer to buyer as it is from time form to time form. However, this 105 puts her in competition with every single horse, at least that we've talked about, if not in the entire race. The most that you see on your screen is a 107 from the 11 to the outside, dropped the hammer, and Table Flirt had a 107, although that was on the dirt. So fits exactly with everyone else. And if you think she's going to take another step forward, which again, based off visually handicapping, I'd imagine that she definitely could. I really like Mo Expectations, set a really nice trip in what seems to be a pretty decent pace in here. So should get a very similar trip to what she got last time. A lot of us are very similar underneath now here. Pat, you and I both have the number 6 Table Flirt in here. I mentioned her already. This is one that Bill Mott has taken both to the turf and the dirt, has won on both surfaces and done both pretty well. However, she hasn't really taken that step forward as we come to expect. Mo Expectations has run 3 starts, been in the money 2, and progressed every time. Someone like Tableford is a horse I look at that's almost like, she ran a 75 on the grass at Gulfstream in the spring. Then she ran on the dirt and ran 78 first time out on the dirt, but then 76, 76, 72. It's almost like we know what she is, unless this race she can take a step forward back on the dirt. But again, you're going to get a pretty low price to find out on this one, I think.
Yeah, and I think with this situation, I feel like this is all intent with what Bill Mott's doing with her here. Obviously he's run on the dirt, whether he's wanted to. Obviously, two-back, obviously at Saratoga in July, they were trying to get her on the turf, but the weather didn't hold up that day. But now throws in a work on the 15th on the Saratoga turf after the meet. And now ships her down to Churchill to run on the turf. I think if you look back at that Gulfstream race where she broke her maiden, I think she showed me that she wants the distance, especially on the turf. So I'm going to give this horse another shot in here. We're talking about fillies at this age, like we've hit on throughout covering this race. All it takes is one race for this horse to progress forward, and she could be in the winner's circle.
I agree completely. Obviously, but I also do understand why you don't have this horse in there, just because, again, maybe you think we've seen exactly what she is. And with a bunch of others that are a lot less tested than Tableford is, you'd expect a lot of others to take a step forward in here.
No, I think that's exactly right. Kind of just know what she is at this point. I was kind of in between her and the 7, who we all have in the mix, actually all in third, I believe. I just thought she's got Will's kind of far and away the class of the race. I mean, she was in some really, really good races, especially as a 2-year-old. But then she kind of found that niche when Cassie cut her back, and she got a pretty good setup at Saratoga where she won with that 83 buyer. And then last time in Kentucky Downs, it didn't necessarily all set up all that well for her, but I thought that was a pretty good field in itself. So I just wanted to include her just based on class perspective. I'm not sure if the 2 turns maybe fits her as well as maybe some others, but I think if in a race where nobody really asserts themselves at the top of the ranks in here, like you said, Kyle, I think she's definitely one to use, but you could include several others as well.
I completely agree with you as well. And James wants to, Katie picked the number 11 on top, drop the hammer for Resolute, who's really the only main contender that we didn't end up talking about. There's just seems to be a lot of pace in this race, which obviously is what I hope for the number 8 Mo Expectations. And if she's going to be part of that, I almost think there's 3 other horses that may be faster in here than her, including one of Noah's top pick, the number 5 Scatitude. So it was hard for me to see a way around the track for that horse to win. However, if the pace doesn't materialize like we see a lot, what it says on paper versus what actually happens in the race, 11 can definitely be up there somewhere in the money. I'm going 8-6-7 to kick off the late pick 5. Noah's going 5-8-7. Pat's also going 8-6-7 with me 6-7. By the way, I had to make at least one joke as we go through, guys. Let's move on to race number 8, which is the grade 3 Ack Ack Stakes. It's going a mile, of course, 1 turn at Churchill, and a field of 8 draws in here. Most likely morning line favorite is the always probably game number 5 Tumbarumba, the Louisiana bred. Gaffaleon hops back aboard for Brian Lynch. Somewhere around the second choice is going to be the number 1 most wanted Irad Brad Cox again, the Gary and Mary West Silks, for the 4-year-old. And we are all going with the aforementioned 1 most wanted. And I was very interested to see that we all had this horse on top, and you'll actually see it throughout the show. We're pretty similar in here. So this can either be the greatest show in the history of Bettin N Boozin, or could be one of the worst. And I'm hoping it's the before rather than the after. But Noah, Pat, I'll go to you first, because Noah, you went first last time. This is one of these horses that I've been never really picked for. I've always been picking against this horse because it almost seems like he's found himself in, unfavorable pace scenario sometimes, or anything like that, especially last time in the grade 1 Forgo, just was way too fast early. But this is one that almost seems like he's easily the speed of the speed. If he gets that type of trip, it could be hard to catch him.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of what my thinking was here too is this distance on this track. This horse just really, really likes Churchill Downs and going this mile distance out of the chute. And that's kind of what just put me, to get this horse on top. Obviously, the rail, we can debate if the horse is going to like the rail, but I'm not too concerned about that, right? I mean, this horse on time form, kind of sticks out as one that's just, faster than the others in here. And I think the Forgo guys, the horse did not want that distance and was up on a pace that wasn't that fast, but just probably not, didn't kind of class up to that competition. This is a spot where I think Most Wanted sits pretty favorably.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure we all think the same way in this race. Going back to the rail thing, he actually broke from the rail in the Forgo. However, this is a completely different thing for him just because of all the other speed that was in that aforementioned Forgo. Now coming into this race, breaking from the rail, basically the only speed, the only other ones really is the number 4. This is Usker. However, I feel like Most Wanted's just the quickest out of the bunch, and if he breaks the way he has in the past, and he should be clear of everyone by the time they come out of the chute. So I don't think the rail should be any issue personally.
Yeah, well, first of all, he didn't break at all in the Forgo.
Correct. Yes,
I think he might have broke last in that race, and then Giroux did pretty much what you're supposed to do because it's no secret he's pretty much got one way to go. You can see him on the inside in the Gary Mary West colors. Didn't break at all, and then I believe the 9 and the 10 ended up going out towards the lead, and then Giroux, did what he was supposed to, got him on that lead, and kind of took him a while to get him there. So he wasn't necessarily shoving, but he was using him quite a bit to get him up and onto the lead. And Bookham Daniel obviously won that race. I think he was just kind of in second flight from there, but second was Scotland, who came from way out of it, and then Crazy Mason came from the clouds as well. So it wasn't exactly like horses on the front end necessarily stuck around. I know Bookham was kind of close, but he was even money in that race. He was supposed to get the job done. So.
I mean, talking about it, Noah. I mean, he broke. It took him basically to just before the half mile pole to finally get in front, basically shoving, and he's still shoving here just to keep him in the race. So I think that point is definitely well taken. Yeah,
no, and the 2 horses that he dealt with, the 9 and the 10, were Hold My Bourbon and Over an Ollie, who finished up the track and weren't anywhere close. So I don't want to disgrace him for that effort there. And obviously he likes it here at Churchill. And Pat brings up a good point. I think I'd really, really like him if he didn't get the rail, just because I wouldn't want the 4. This is Usker or Usker. You know me, I'm not good with names, but I wouldn't want him pressing him just because it might soften him up a little bit. But I feel like if he breaks and Irad's aggressive, gets him on the front end, I think he's going to be pretty tough.
Upgrade. But no, I agree with you completely on Most Wanted guys. I feel like we basically hit on everything with them. Pat, we're even have the greatest day ever or not. Obviously, it's nothing creative, but Tumbarumba is the next. He's really just one of those horses for me that even though he really doesn't win every time, he always gives his best effort unless there's some really weird factor about it, like in the Westchester, how like he was in a really weird spot, and coupled with the mud, really didn't seem to like it. But at this type of mile, 1-turn mile especially, used to run a lot at Gulfstream Park back when he was a younger horse for Brian Lynch. But I feel like the 1-turn mile really suits him. And if he's going to sit just behind Most Wanted, if he gets away, Tumbarumba's got a really big chance to at least finish in the trifecta, if not the exacta.
Yeah, I would bet a large sum of money that this horse hits the board on Saturday, considering consistency at this track and just overall, like you said, Kyle. Yeah, really cool horse. Listen, I think the horse last race, for the pace that it was, I think the horse ran pretty big. I mean, I know the competition, was kind of similar to what he's going to face today, so it's not something that I'm too concerned about. I'm hoping that I honestly think this. Underneath in this race, I think it's Most Wanted's race to lose, and then everybody else you could kind of figure it out from there. It's kind of tough, right? So that's kind of why I think between the 2 and the 5, it could be anybody else if it's not those 2. So yeah, but I think Tumbarumba is just as consistent as they come.
Yeah, I agree. And I figured Noah was going to go with this horse underneath. The West Coast guys sticking, of course, with the West Coast guys. John Sadler ships this one over here after the Pacific Classic. No, I mean, this is an interesting move. Obviously, though, probably figured out the classic distance is not exactly what this horse wants to do. Gave it a shot. Obviously, didn't end up working out, but ships him over here to try and run that mile distance that he's run so well in the past. Of course, I believe both West Coast tracks run the mile at 2 turns. So obviously this will be a little bit of a different game. However, still, I think the mile is what this horse definitely wants.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting a read on why he was over here because I know they've got I was looking it up earlier, they got the Fayette, which is a grade 3 at Keeneland. But that's 9 furlongs, and I'm not exactly sure that's how far he wants to go. I know they had the Goodwood at Santa Anita, which he probably doesn't want to go that far either. So I think, after he ran in the Pacific Classic, I think there was just it was kind of up for discussion, and I think this is just kind of the logical spot to go. I'm sure some West Point clients had a little bit of say in that. They wanted to see him come out into the Midwest and compete in some races, and I think he's found a pretty good one. I know his races at a mile are pretty good, and the reason why I always kind of liked him was I really liked him at Del Mar because I thought some of his races, even as a 3-year-old at Del Mar, were really, really good. Because there were a couple of times where he closed on a track at that time last year. There was about a 3-week time at Del Mar where it was very, very speed favoring. And I thought his races there were very, very good. And obviously, Kyle, you and Pat were in the back of the car with Meg and Emma driving to dinner when he won that race 2 back with a 95. So I know you guys have a little soft spot for him as well.
No, yeah, and this is easily a horse I could end up putting in second just because I don't want to take the top 3 choices, what I assume will be on top. I like that Saez hops aboard here. I feel like he'll be a good fit. While he's not going to be on the lead necessarily, I like that he's probably going to be put in a good position on a track that probably favors somewhere coming from the mid-pack. You don't really see a lot of deep closers running, especially at this distance. Out of Churchill, last horse we'll talk about is number 2. We'll take it. We all have this horse somewhere in there. Pat, you have this horse in second. We all have Noah and I have this horse in third. Just one again that always runs his race and has run very well at Churchill in the past, especially the last 2 at the exact configuration we're seeing today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Kyle. Those last 2 races, I really, really liked. And I think that if this horse can run back those 2 races on the time form, though, those 2 stick out. And if you look at it, his last 2 races are right there with Most Wanted's last 2 races. Now, listen, obviously, like Noah pointed out with Most Wanted, what happened and at the beginning of that race in the forego. But I think that if we'll take it at age 4 is still progressing, he sits right in there too. But then obviously we do wonder if he's just quick enough coming from the middle of the pack to catch Most Wanted.
Yeah, I agree completely. Obviously, the 98 and 97 buyer would equate that he could probably get up there, but it's definitely one thing to keep in mind. How he's going to continue to progress. Obviously, the Hanshin last time a race they used to run at the beautiful track of Arlington International Racecourse. So always like when I see that race in the program, even though it's not run, back at Arlington as it used to be. It was always a cool thing with the Hanshin because it was actually a deal they had with Hanshin Racecourse out in Japan. Arlington would run the Hanshin and Hanshin would run the Arlington Stakes, and it really didn't have anything to do other than they just had a partnership between the 2. So always was a cool time to see both of those races run in coordinates with each other. In the Ack Ack, I'm going 1-5-2. Noah's going 1-6-2. Pat's going 1-2-5. Guys, moving on to race number 9. It's allowance optional, 100,000. Purse is 141, going a mile and 16th. On the dirt for older fillies and mares. And I bring up the picks right now. Both Noah and I are going with the number 9, Perfect Shot. Tyler Gaffleone, Steve Asmussen. Pat, you're going with the number 3. I think it's Pagale, if I think of it, or Pagal. Noah, I need your help on this one. Noah, we're there together, my man.
I'm going to give you help. I'm going to make it worse.
Well, usually you're good with horses, bad with stakes.
I think it's
races.
Pagal. If I had to guess, I'm going to go Pagal.
All right, we'll go Pagal. We'll go with it, and we'll yell at Pat if it's wrong. Of course, we'll see.
I'm
who
sure
takes
I'll hear
the
about
mount.
it for months on end. It's
Yeah,
okay.
you could just watch replays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, easier said than done.
The funniest thing is I did
look
watch
at the tracks
a
that
replay.
he's right. Well, I guess you could look at Kentucky
The
Downs.
funniest thing is I did watch a replay from that horse, but of course didn't have the sound on, so didn't listen to what the horse's name was. We'll see, of course, who takes the mount for Brian Hernandez. Tom Drury trains Pagal. So Pat, I'll let you talk first, as you are the one that gets to tell us why Noah and I are wrong and why you like Pagal on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get a price on her in this race, and that's kind of my thinking was. I just listen. I don't know. I think that it's going to be the 9 or the 10 are probably going to be first, second choice. 10 will probably be favored if I had to guess. Right, Standout Sensation will be the favorite.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I listen. Those two can win. Both coming from Saratoga. But I think with Pagal, I looked that race at Kentucky Downs. Ran against some pretty good horses. Ran halfway. Ran okay. But what I'm getting to, competition that this horse has been facing prior to that, in the Group Vidal, the Chicago, was nowhere near who those horses are and who won those races, Impale and Vava. But then I look, 4 back, and that race that she ran. And that allowance optional claimer, it was on the slop, so be it. But I just really like that race visually, watching that replay. And I don't think the stretch out and distance should be too big of a problem. Obviously in the money once at the distance, but has appreciated Churchill Downs when being there. And I'm going to try and catch a price where this horse is going to be coming from out of it in what should be a pretty quick pace, I would think, because the 10 from the outside, I think, is going to really want to go, considering getting that outside draw. And I'm hoping that quickens everything up because there's a couple horses on the inside that are going to want to go as well.
Yeah, you can see Tom Form does agree with you on the fast pace, Noah, which is actually why I like our 9 a lot in this race. Not my biggest bet of the entire day necessarily, but I do like the 9 in this race. However, Pagal I have in second, and I do like her previous races out here at Churchill, which is why I did have her in there. However, she's been facing really good competition. However, she really just hasn't been in the race. So it's almost like she's going to take a lot of money in here, I would assume. Maybe not favoritism money, but a decent amount of money to where I almost need to see it again and then I can trust her. But again, I completely understand why you do have this horse on top, Pat. Noah, we're going to our horse on top, the number 9, Perfect Shot for Steve Asmussen. Gaff Leone hops back aboard here. Last time at Saratoga, granted, out of the weird Wilson shoot, but ran by far the best race of her life. And now she's coming back to a track which she's really liked in the past, at a distance she's really liked in the past. It almost just seems like if she can put up even remotely the same numbers last time, this would be a really good catch for us.
No, and I agree, but the problem is I actually made a co-host fail.
Oh, for the love of God.
This is supposed to be 10-11.
So
I got the outside horses a little screwed up. I got them.
Oh, dude, then what's the point, man? All right, fine. You like Standout Sensation, a horse that's probably going to be favorited on Saturday based on those 2 of the last 3 races. One of them at Saratoga, one of them at Oaklawn. Irad Ortiz aboard for Tom Amos.
Yeah, and I do like this one a little bit more than some of the others. I thought this was a pretty difficult race. I could see myself using 5 or 6 in here. Standout Sensation, it seems like Amos had her on a pretty long campaign. I mean, she started way back in the beginning of November. It was actually on the turf at Churchill, but ran some pretty decent races up and close to the pace, which I think is going to be good for her just because she's got that outside post. So I think, Irad's going to have to use her a little bit to get into position. But after that long campaign, with a nice win at Saratoga, Amos gave her a little bit of time off. She's been training consistently. She was at Saratoga for a while. She's been at Churchill for 2 works, and she's done nothing wrong. So just based off numbers, you can make the case that she's the one to beat, and hopefully they don't heat things up too much, because I think she's just kind of get that perfect stalking trip, like kind of a 3 wide outside stalking, and just kind of a stalk and pounce, and hopefully she gets it done.
Yeah, and she could easily do it just based on numbers. She's definitely the leader, the clubhouse leader if you will, in terms of figures. Just the one question for me was how close up to the pace scenario will she sit? If she's able to sit off the 2 and the 5 first run, she could definitely get a jump on a lot of these others, including my top pick, which Noah, I was very excited for you. Now I'm not. But the number 9 Perfect Shot. And I understand this is that type of angle where, it's basically a 1 number horse as of this year, and you want to see it again. However, I mean, she ran an 81 in the Rachel Alexandra back in early 24 against Tarifa. That's a name that hits hard for a couple people on the screen here, but I get it. You want to see this one again. I'm just banking on the fact that she's coming back to that mile distance, and she's run 4 for 5 in the exacta at Churchill. Again, not my strongest play of the day by any means. However, if she can replicate that last race at Saratoga, she could be very, very good, and probably pretty hard to beat if she replicates that exact trip from last time at Saratoga. And Gaffleone is definitely the man in Kentucky that I want to trust with getting that trip. Again, standout sensation we talked about. Pat, you have the 9 in third. The last horse I want to really talk about here is number 2, Lega Dema. And of course, you can talk about the 11 too if you want, Noah. Just round out the last 2 you have in there. Philip Bauer trains. Martin Garcia hops aboard here, who hasn't had a whole lot of mounts this year, of course, but this is one that's run in some really nice races, including Grade 3 Dogwood last year. Didn't necessarily threaten for the win, however, was graded stakes shown, and this will be third off the layoff now for this 4-year-old filly, hoping to put it back together. No.
Yeah, I've got the 2 and the 11 who are kind of the bookends. I think the 2 could maybe be the speed of the speed, and then the 11's the one who would really come from way out of it if the 2 and the 10, and I think the 5's got some speed too. So if they really set it up, I think the 11 could maybe pick up a piece or two. But like Adema, it's really no secret that she's slow, but she's been in some decent races sprinting. Like you said, third off the bench. And in those 2 races that she's kind of come back as a 4-year-old, she's kind of been way off of it, which I don't think is necessarily her best style. So I think with the stretch out naturally, that'll put her a little bit closer. Martin Garcia has always kind of been a guy who's been a bit more on the aggressive side, just with his, SoCal background. They got a little more speed out there on the West Coast. So I think, he'll be sending from the 2 hole, maybe he gets brave on the front end, and there's really not, no world beaters in terms of fillies in this race. So I got her and the Neon Icon. Like I said, if things really fall apart, she was in some decent races at the end of the year last year. She's kind of been a little disappointing this year, but Rusty's a guy who I trust. Sias hops on, which I think is a green flag, and it's got a winner at Churchill. So kind of the bookends, like I said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if it's not the 10, who's definitely the most likely morning line favorite and most likely winner in this race, you have 2 others that either type of the pace scenario can definitely get at least in the money, if not vie for the win. In race number 9, I'm going 9, 10, 3. Noah's going 10 to 11. Was supposed to be the 9 on top. And Pat's going 3, 10, 9. Guys, moving on to the feature on the day. It is the Grade 2 Lukas Classic Stakes. This is really the start to gear up for the Breeders' Cup here. 500,000 on the line, going a mile and an eighth on the Churchill dirt track, and it's the morning line favorite is going to be an interesting way to see how it shakes out between the number 1 Willie D's, the number 2 Hit Show, the number 5 the Derby winner Mystic Dan, and the number 7 Banishing. And as I switch on to our picks here, that does not bode well for the gang, as we all go the same way with the number 7 Banishing, a horse that was very good to a lot of us over at Chucktown. Now he comes back to Churchill, a track that he's really liked before. Noah, I'll start with you here, my friend. Again, by really shown, this Banishing was one of those horses that he didn't necessarily run any bad races, but it almost seems like he kind of tailed off a little bit in his form based on buyers alone, but then comes back in the Charlestown Classic, ran around such a weird track, ran an absolute burner in there, and now coming back to a track that he's at least enjoyed in the money before and at the distance where he's liked a lot. Banishing is just a really cool horse that can run a lot of different ways.
Yeah, he is. And, his last time he ran was August 22nd. So he's been off for a month now, which I think in his case is pretty long at this point. He doesn't get big breaks like that very often. But like you said, I know you guys covered that card, and curious to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, I thought he was pretty good in the Charleston Classic. Was good as well in the Jeffield Memorial at Ellis 2-back. So just like you said, a hard knocking horse. And I think the main question in this race for me would be whether Willie D's actually goes here or in New York, because it's either him or the 4 Prince of Power, who I don't think really has much of a shot in here. But I think those two will be pressing the pace. I was on a call with Howard, the boss himself, earlier, and he said something about Banishing going to New York, which I think he might have actually mixed up Banishing and Willie
D's.
So
yeah.
If he's actually right about Willie D's going to New York, then it really shakes things up because there's really not a lot of pace. With that being said, I think the direction that you go is the horse that's going to be closest to the pace when they're rounding that far turn. And I think Banishing is probably going to be that one.
I agree. And I mentioned at the top, Pat, Banishing is just a really, like, the way David Jacobson has campaigned this horse is just really interesting from kind of all levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
These different distances, sprints, routes, timings. He runs them back, in 2 weeks. He runs them back in 5 weeks. He runs them back in 3 weeks. And really doesn't matter. He hasn't run worse than a 92 buyer in the last, over almost a year now at this point. And he runs every 2-3 weeks, it seems like sometimes. So, and again, that's difference of 6 furlongs all the way up to 1.1 miles. He can really do it all. And if he continues to build off of that last race, the Charlestown Classic, I'm in agreement with Noah. They could be tough to beat, especially if he's the first one to try and catch the leader turning from home.
Yeah, wasn't he going to ship him to the Jockey Club Gold Cup a week later?
Yes.
It was.
I don't know if they ever did ship him. Obviously, he didn't run, but I don't know if they ended up shipping him to Saratoga. But, listen, there's not too much explaining I could do here. But my favorite race from him was in defeat in the Churchill Downs. That grade 1 that he ran when he was coming up the rail, oh, my gosh. He ran unbelievable that day in the slop. And I just am thinking about some of those races that he's running. And that race, Charleston Classic, he didn't get the greatest of trips by Tyler. Tyler had put him in a weird spot early and down the backside, and then had to make an early move. So that race, that very impressive race. But yeah, I think Banishing gets the outside draw, and I really like this horse on Saturday again.
The old 3-turn 1.1 miles down at Chucktown. We do. It's the Bettin N Boozin Classic that we cover every year. It seems like, Pat, obviously if this horse goes to New York, this will change our 2 top picks, as we actually have the same picks again. So again, very based, my friend. You're going with the number 1 Willie D's in second, as I am, straight for that pace angle. I really think, granted, I know he breaks from the rail, but Prince of Power has probably, I would argue, by far the most speed. Like, he's only a dead send completely. I feel like Willie D's has the opportunity to at least sit a little bit. I think in my perfect case scenario, Willie D's would let Prince of Power go, sit just off of him, pressing the pace the whole way around, and Banishing sitting right behind them. And if that's the case, Willie D's has run some really, really big races ever since getting claimed for 50 from the Maker Barn. He's really kind of found that on the lead at this type of distance to be really his thing. And I thought he also ran a really good Charlestown Classic, considering he didn't do what Willie D's likes to do at all, and that's be near the pace, and he was nowhere near it that day.
Yeah, this is the Maker special here, getting this horse off the claim, and then this horse just running lights out and getting in graded competition. Yeah, Kyle, it's interesting because you try and look through these PPs and see if this horse can sit off. And listen, I don't want to say he can't, because I do have him in second, but he's going to sit that trip in either first or second. I don't see how he doesn't finish in the money regardless. So that's kind of why I have this horse just sitting in second, especially with, his speed figures. Mm-hmm. I think he sits right there, just maybe a class below Banishing. But he was he the second choice in the Classic?
Let me take a look for you right now. I believe it's definitely close to that, at least. Banishing, no, see, I have Skippy Longstock, so it was
good old
tied
Skippy,
third choice with Comarabino Emoide is one. It's one we always have trouble with. I believe it's Comarabino Emoide, I believe is who that is. But yeah, still, he was well back that day.
Yeah, he was. And it's tough because obviously I think this this field maybe is a little bit tougher. And there's others in here, obviously big names. So I think Willie D's is just what, Maker has this horse working in Kentucky. And I would think stays.
Yeah, and you see Howard at the bottom of the screen said this is an easier spot for Willie D's at Churchill than at Aqueduct. He should stay in Kentucky, and if that's the case, definitely keeps this field together, which makes me like Banishing that much more. But obviously, I haven't looked at Aqueduct yet, but the boss man has already started looking for his show on Thursday, so definitely I would take his word for it the most. No, you don't have Willie D's in there. I'm assuming you might not like him, but I'm assuming that is if he goes to New York.
No, that's because I thought Howard had told me that he was going to New York. But if he runs in the Churchill race, I'd obviously be using him. I mean, I'm no dummy. Yeah. There's no speed in the 4, so
yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that's honestly why I was completely against Hit Show. It's just because there's really no pace for him at all, and he's been the not quintessential one, but if there's no speed in front of him, he always has a tough time to get on the win end. But for third, I can completely see it if that happens.
I hear you, Howard. I had a long day too. No, after Disarm, I feel like after 6-7, it gets a little foggy because we're not sure if the one's going. I don't trust Mystic Den at all. I don't trust Hit Show or Rattle and Roll after that. So I don't know. There is a lot of love in the chat from Jim Lars and Paul Conlon, who are
an irresponsible wager of the year, my friend. That's what I'm talking about, and that's why I wanted to talk about him last, is because the chat felt so good about him. And I actually agree with the chat a lot because of the fact that I've been waiting for this horse to really just put that big one together, and he really just hasn't, especially against this bigger competition. I guess you could argue the Whitney really was that big race for him, running behind Sierra Leone and Highland Falls, just finishing 3 lengths behind the Breeders' Cup Classic winner, which even pains me to say to this day, of course, for those that have been around the podcast, if you know, you know. But he's just one of those horses that I just don't know if really has ever classed up to this type of competition. I think he can easily run in the money in this race. And if he puts it all together, he could definitely run a gigantic one like he did in the Whitney. But I think in the money is definitely a little bit more of a easier thought for this horse, for me at least.
Well, Jim Pilar says he's got his favorite angle, which is Rosario off. So, yeah, I mean, whatever floats your boat, Jim. I don't think that's necessarily going to hurt. But, I mean, talk about some of the races that he's been in. I mean, it just kind of seems like Steve's always thrown him to the wolves, even way back when he had been off for a long – I can't remember what was – someone with his feet after the Travers, and he was off for a long time. And then it never really seemed like he was ever going to get back to what he, kind of what we thought he was going to be. And then the Whitney definitely didn't embarrass himself. And then we all know what happened in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's just a weird race. He was part of that whole fiasco in the first quarter mile. So don't want to give him short shrift for that. But he's definitely a money burner. But I will say it's been burning money in races that I think the fields are much better than Saturday. So I think you can kind of give him a leg up on that.
Yeah, I mean, like a 7-6 exact, I could definitely see happening, and probably will play that.
What about 6-7 for the box?
6, yeah, but no buy, not box. You know that. No, not even for the meme will I put that one out there. Not even for the meme will I put that. Although the meme is very tempting to put out there, of course. But in the feature Lukas Classic, guys, I'm going 7-1-6, as is Patrick, also going 7-1-6. Noah's going 7-6-2. Of course, that is with the thought that Willie D's is going to race at Aqueduct. If he ends up not running there, I think Noah would agree, definitely be using him in this race. Guys, moving on to race 11, and by far, by principle, has to be the toughest race of the entire day. Churchill Downs fashion, they go the maiden special weight route, 6 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies, which the 2-year-old fillies is just in division to be warranted for this type of race. Field of 11 drawn in here, and I'll bring up our picks right now because who's going to be the morning line favorite? It's definitely the 3, Ravel Revel Toast. I thought it was Revel Toast, and I listened to Miramati, and it was Revel Toast. I'm like, okay, it's Revel Toast. That's fine. Irad Ortiz, Tom Amos, probably going to be something to 5 on the morning line would be my guess, just based off that one race. What?
Howard, I would have done the exact same thing.
That's funny. I like that.
I was going to tell the boss to fine you guys every time you made this remark, but now that he's doing it, I'm at a loss.
Old man Pat doesn't know what the hell is going on anymore. The kids are going crazy. Anyway, it's freaking Noah. Revel Toast on that race, off that race at Saratoga. He really ran a winning race, in my opinion, and just losing to Spirit Doll, who was the 7-5 morning line favorite that day. Got put in the spin away, I think is what happened. Next time out for Spirit Doll. Didn't run, the spin away didn't run a single lick that day for Safi. However, I think just the thought about going to spin away with that winner should install a little bit of confidence in the number 3 Revel Toast.
Yeah, and I think outside of the 3, I would basically have no idea where to go in here. But you're showing the replay of her first start where she was kind of up and on the pace, took the lead at the top of the stretch, and then Spirit Doll came running by her, and that was a restricted race as well. She's been in 2 restricted races, but it feels like this race and even the grass race, I feel like she ran winning races, and she's not giving up there.
That's what I was going to say was the biggest thing down the stretch is, I mean, she has every right to lose by like 2 lengths here, especially with Groupie Doll getting the momentum, and the fact that she stays on and loses by a neck was my biggest thing.
I mean, if she lost by a neck to Groupie Doll, I mean, that's a pretty good feat.
Oh, for the love of God!
But she was 17-1 in that race, so I think you have to give her pretty good remarks for that. And then, like I said, in the turf race, I'm not sure why they tried the turf, but she was just off a hot pace, made kind of a premature move, and then flattened out a little bit late. So it just, I don't know what you thought, Pat. It feels like if she breaks and gets the lead, I think they could all be running for second.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought her 2 races, just looking at the speeds of them, the first quarter too, she should be, if she breaks well, she should be much clear of some of these in here, hoping, not knowing really how the others are working too well. I think that she's, if it's not her, like you said, Noah, it could be literally anybody else.
And I know we say that a lot, guys, but this is really one of the quintessential
a restricted maiden race at the end of the card. Like, this has all the intangibles of just being
something ridiculous, like a 30-1 first time starter, putting everything together, winning by 5. You could easily see something like that happening. I went Frosty Forever, guys. Again, this is my second choice in the 8. It's probably going to be a pretty decent price. Only reason was a half to Michael Licious, who was a really nice allowance horse out in New York. Granted, it was over 6 at Aqueduct, but running, mid 80s buyers, which would be well and truly enough. Granted, not as a 2-year-old, but would be, if she's anything like that, coming from turf to dirt here, had a really nice work last time out at Churchill. So lots of signs to point at least to get this horse in the money with Saez aboard. The only first time starter, Noah, that I actually liked at all, granted, besides the Cox horse on the outside, which you could argue might just be well meant, is the number 9 Firebird Sweet. So I'm glad to see you have this horse in there. And then you guys both have the 2 in there as well. So Noah, feel free to start on Firebird Sweet, and then you guys can throw it back to each other between the 2 and the 11.
No, I think she's a little interesting as well. I mean, there's not too much to say. She's in the race because they only bought her for $20,000, and I'm not sure exactly what the ceiling price tag is for the condition, but obviously
60, I think.
60. Yeah, so obviously when you buy horses like this,
65,
they've given them the opportunities to pick spots like these. And Drury's a guy I thought is always kind of disrespected. You can see him; he's 22% for the year. He's already got a win at the meet, 25% with first-time starters, and very good with younger horses as well. So I think you got to give his barn a shout every now and then. And the Silver States, I want to see his freshman sire. He hasn't had too many runners yet, but he's had a couple winners pop first time, nothing too crazy. But I thought you wanted to give him a look. And then I've got the 2 as well, who I think Pat is kind of going to echo the same sentiments. that was a maiden obstacle claiming 50, but she was odds on in that race. So, I mean, somebody had to like her. Otherwise she wouldn't have been 93 cents on the dollar. And when you see Dwelt in the comments, Dwelt is basically, they lost all chance at the start. So she didn't break at all, didn't really run all that much. But I wanted to give her another look. Just second time, maybe she shows some big improvement.
Yeah, let's just say she was learning what to do in her first time out, and I think the numbers that Dale has maiden second time starts is pretty good percentage wise.
Much better than first, I'll tell you that. Which is it's even weirder why she was 4 to 5 in that race, because he's like 7% first out. But
yeah, it's a good point. And that's kind of where I was with Sway House. So we'll obviously watch the board. This is a race you have to watch the board going into or coming out of the what is it, the Lukas Classic, because it's wide open.
Yeah, and you could definitely check probables out of that race. If you guys have an EDW that you guys look, either Naira, Twin Spires, of course, whatever you guys use, you guys can always find the will pays and the probable buttons. You click the probable buttons, go to doubles. You can see from the favorite in that race to see who the favorite is going to be in the next race based on the lowest payout. It's actually a really good tool to use if you're trying to figure out what the odds are going to be for the next race. And of course, you can use that for any race that has a race after it with the double, of course. But in the last race, race number 11, I'm going 3-8-11. Noah's going 3-2-9. Pat's going 3-11-2. Guys, moving into best bets. But of course, before we go there, if you guys have been enjoying the podcast tonight, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, because we're really getting into the nitty gritty of Breeders' Cup season now, Breeders' Cup prep season. We're just a month out from Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday. It's actually crazy to even say that, but we're really starting to get into the big stuff now leading into the World Championships of horse racing. And we're going to do our best and have a ton of Breeders' Cup shows when that time does roll around. So if you guys enjoyed this podcast, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for big future podcasts. Pat, I'll let you go first. You only have one best bet, but it is, again, your best bet on the entire day, starting in race number 7, the first race that we did talk about, the Allowance turf race. You're going with the 6 and 8, that being the number 6 Table Flirt and the number 8 Mo Expectations, and singling Most Wanted on the backside of the double.
Yeah, I feel like here with Table Flirt 6, I'm going to try and get a little cute. I think that double will pay pretty well if I can go 6-1 into Most Wanted. I think Table Flirt will probably be the third or fourth choice in that race. And then obviously I think Mo Expectations will be first or second, probably favored. But Most Wanted I think is the key to my whole day. I would play exotics all over that horse. I think that horse is definitely going to be tough to beat in that race. So listen, this is a fun Saturday sequence, and Weekend Warriors. I'll be hopping on. I know people are gonna be like, "What? Patrick's on Weekend Warriors?" But I'll be there. I'll be ready to go. I'm excited. It's a good card. And I just looked through the entries at New York, and those are some pretty good races too. So excited.
Self burns are usually rare, so that's a pretty good one.
I burn myself sometimes. I am in the middle of football season, working a lot of games, but I do need to burn myself sometimes. So
yeah. No, we like that, Pat. Good luck with your best bets, of course, on Saturdays. We have a very similar opinions on a lot of these races. Noah, going with yours, race number 7, a win on the number 5 Scatitude, a horse you talked about a lot in the first race we covered, and in race 10, Ice Cold Double 7 Banishing with the 3 in the last race, of course. I got to pull up the back of the name, the number 3, Revel Toast, because if it's not that horse, it could be anyone.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think Pat makes a good point with his bet. I probably should have put the double in the Most Wanted, because I feel like if you bet if you beat the 8 in there, I mean, that double is going to pay pretty good. I think even the one in that second leg won't be a huge favorite. So I think that double should pay well. But Scatitude, like I said, her one lone turf route at Churchill I thought was pretty good. And then her race at Kentucky Downs I thought was pretty good as well. So I like her at a bit of a price. And then fast forward to race 10, that's a double starting with Banishing, because I feel like, you could go 6-7, but, for these purposes, I just went with the 7 and then into the 3, like you said, Kyle, who I guess if he's if she's not a free square, then I would have absolutely no idea where to go in the race.
You pissed me off because I was literally going to make the joke. I'm surprised your double wasn't 6-7 with 3. And the fact that you even brought it up makes me laugh even more. But of course, again, completely agree with you on that last double. Would definitely be hammering that one hard. And I hope, for my sake, of course, I hope you're wrong with the number 5 Scatitude as I bring up my best bets. 2 very easy ones for me. And unfortunately, I think they're going to be 2 favorites. However, I don't know how big of favorites they will end up being with the race number 7, a win on the number 8, Mo Expectations, and a race number 10, a win on the number 7, Banishing. Of course, you can turn them into doubles. We love Most Wanted, and that 3 in the last race looks like the biggest, the most likely winner on the entire day in that race. Because if that horse doesn't win, we said it a lot, but could literally be anyone besides her. But just visually handicapping that race in Indiana, I really, really like Mo Expectations in that race. Hopefully somewhere around a price of 5-2, 2-1 I would take on that horse. I think anything to 5, I might be a little bit wary. However, Mo Expectations will be a win bet, and I really, really do like Banishing in that race. To have first run, a lot of the favorites will be closers in that race besides him. So if he's going to run a big one and get a first run on a lot of the other closers, I really do like Banishing again to step up and run a big one on Saturday. Noah, Pat, thanks so much as always for joining me today. And of course, thank you, boss man, for hopping in right now. What's up?
Well, I just want to wish you and Emma a lot of luck and success down in Florida. I think we all share the same feelings. I think Jim Pilar said it best when he said, my best bet is that Kyle and Emma will absolutely love Florida life. Best of luck, my friend. Kyle, I remember in my life when you accomplished something that you really worked hard for. It's a great feeling. It's the big unknown. You've got to figure out what are the best restaurants, and you got to figure you're going to meet new friends and new people. And most importantly, I know you guys are going to rock it out there. And when it's like -20 and snowing here, I'm going to be extremely jealous. I might just give you a call just to say, how's the weather down there? Avoid the hurricanes. That'd be highly recommended. Find that escape route. But all seriousness, wish you a lot of success, man. I know you guys are going to do great down there. Look forward to a bunch of trips to Gulfstream or whenever they close, if they close, Tampa or the new track in Ocala that Ripoli's going to buy or however it's going to shake down. But we're all really excited for you, and safe travels down there. I know you've got a lot of work ahead in the next 72 hours.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, me and both myself and Emma were very, very excited. I know our Stephanie asked earlier in the chat, and I forgot to bring it up. Emma and I are moving around the West Palm Beach area, so South Florida. Again, it's going to be about 45-minute drive to Gulfstream Park, which I have never complained about in my life, of course, but 15 minutes to the beach, 2 hours from the Orlando area where we have family up there and friends. So lots of really fun things ahead. But yeah, over the next 3 days, I have a 24-hour drive to get through, stopping somewhere, Kentucky, Tennessee, probably somewhere in that area halfway through. And then, of course, getting down onto Florida. But yeah, it's a big move, but it's something, as Howard hinted at, it's something that me and my wife have looked forward to really ever since we met each other. But as we started getting more serious and, talked about where we ended up wanting to live, Florida was always the number one in our minds. And the fact that we're getting to do it now, it's a dream come true. So Howard, I really do appreciate it. And I know you guys are all behind me.
Hey, yeah, we just out of curiosity, this is show 149 of you hosting Bettin N Boozin. How many shows have you done in Des Plaines, Wisconsin, and how many you can do in Florida? Have you thought about how many shows you've done in each locale?
Well, the funny thing is it's probably about halfway. Like it's probably like about right halfway that I moved up to Wisconsin, and hopefully it's to infinity to Benton for Florida. Obviously, we hope we like it. We have an apartment that should be really, really nice. It's got a pool, a movie theater, a putting green too, so I can work out my crap ass putting hopefully problems. But
good luck at that at-home work job. Where's Kyle? Oh, I think he's at the putting green again. He missed another meeting again.
No, never. Just hopefully my boss doesn't watch. Put the AirPods in and but just of course joking. But Noah Bloom is someone I wanted to bring up. I've never seen that name before, so Noah's my man because great name. of course, my friend, we always like to welcome our new viewers. And Todd Harmon says, see you at Churchill on Saturday. Noah, as well. Paul Conlon said that as well. So look forward to seeing Noah, and again, especially on Weekend Warriors starting Saturday at around 3:30 Eastern. Correct, Howard?
No.
Well, that's usually when it starts.
It's actually going to start earlier, 2:30 Eastern.
2:30 Eastern. Okay, so
yeah.
it sounds
anyway,
good.
I'll get off the screen and let you finish the show, but good luck, Kyle. Safe travels.
You're good, man. Appreciate you as always. So, and like I said, thanks, Howard, and thank you to everyone in the chat. I know there's a ton of. Robert Dennison says, welcome to Florida. It's a great place to live. Great seafood and beaches besides low taxes. Trust me, I'm looking forward to every single one of those things, because every single one of those things we do not have where I live, especially in Chicago. Of course, Wisconsin with the last thing has been a little bit better, but Florida is definitely the king when it comes to all three of those things. So I'm very excited to move down there. But guys, thank you all for, of course, being with me here. And thank you guys for all watching. Again, the show would not be what it is without all the viewers. So again, we greatly appreciate you sitting through every single Wednesday or Tuesday, I guess, for here on Bettin N Boozin, with my co-hosts Noah Maher and Patrick Kunsel. This has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 149 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. The last from Wisconsin, covering the Lukas Classic Day over at Churchill Downs. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.